from. It's my pleasure to welcome up here Olivia, Chamoun, Canavan, and Russell. Russell, I don't have your surname, but I guess it's like Sting or Madonna, it's just Russell, yeah? Russell is going to play the grand piano, and Olivia's going to sing for us a couple of songs before we start.
Absolutely beautiful Frank Sinatra there, thank you. It is so special to be here tonight. I would like to echo Jeremy's words that this is indeed a very special evening. This crowd before me is much bigger than our jazz clubs, isn't it, Russell? But we are absolutely thrilled to be a part of this night. I'd like to say thank you to the wonderful John Smythe and team for having us. It's been a thrill so far. We're going to be with you for the next 5-10 minutes or so. Very soon I'm going to actually invite you to sing with me. We're going to sing a hymn together to enter into prayer in that way. But before we do that, Russell and I are going to play a song that I wrote a couple of years ago when I was reflecting and praying about tonight and what I wanted to share with you. This song came to mind because I wrote it during my husband and my discernment while we were dating, early on in our dating life. So I feel like it fits the theme of the evening, and I really hope it speaks to you in some way. Before we start, I would like to formally introduce Russell Tay. Please give him a hand. He's a very special man. I have the absolute blessing of working with him in my band, and he's always a pleasure to work with. So I hope you like this song. This is called Heaven's Whisper. The night sky is lit with stars unknown. Your eyes to me are glowing wonder. There is much to learn about you. I hope you'll be near a while. I wasn't looking for your love, dear. Your words ring so true in my heart. A clear sound of heaven's whisper. Oh, won't you stay near me a while? I long to discover the touch of your hand. I search for the one my heart projection, so I'm hoping that there may be someone who can get that up, because I have the sheet music up here for all of you to read with me. There's lyrics too, don't worry. Thank you, Jeremy. So, when thinking about what I wanted to sing with you all, I picked what is my favourite hymn, so definitely a biased choice. But we have such a beautiful tradition of music in our Catholic Church, and so many of the amazing traditional hymns are quite simple to sing, but so beautiful. And of course, the words of the prayers are, in my opinion, perfect and don't need to be changed in any way. So this is Soul of My Saviour. I'm going to move out of the way. I'll go over here. Please don't feel like you have to be a singer to be involved in this. This is purely us creating a choir of 650. And if you are a singer, be the leader of your area and champion those around you into song. I actually coached some singers that I saw before, and I said, we're doing this, so make sure you sing. But yes, in all seriousness, I think this is a beautiful prayer. So we're going to sing it together. I will sing the first verse just once so we can get our ears around it, and then we'll go back to the first verse. And now here are the rules. I'm being a bit of a choir director. The first verse, when we go back to it for a second time, will be just the women. And then the second verse will be just the men, so I'm going to stop singing, so boys, make sure you're ready for that. And then the third verse, we're going to put it all together. And if you are a vocalist and you know some of the parts, please throw them in. Let's raise the roof here. Okay, here we go. Soul of My Saviour. us, and we hope you have an amazing night. Really looking forward to the sharing very shortly. Thanks again, and God bless.
Thank you, Olivia and Russell. You have redeemed our ears. You know, as Australians, it's rare to have successful exports to the US that we can really be proud of. I can only count 3. Mel Gibson, Crocodile Dundee, and Matt Fradd.
What about air supply?
And only 1.5 of them are Catholic. We're still praying for the other half of Mel. Matt Fradd is our homegrown success story, and his success is our success because it's for the building up of our faith and our beautiful Catholic Church. Tonight we are privileged to hear not only from Matt, but also his wife, Cameron. And I know we will be inspired by this beautiful couple. We were already inspired earlier tonight at the singles dinner, where we had over 100 men and women mixing with each other in the presence of Matt and Cameron. And I tell you what, if 18 of those people who are at that dinner tonight form 9 marriages, I was about to say 6, but we don't believe in bigamy, 9 marriages, then this night is a success. Look, if 2 of those people form 1 marriage, this night is a success. If no marriages are formed, but some of the marriages here are strengthened, that is a success. If 1 marriage here today is strengthened, this whole night was worthwhile. Matt and Cameron, as you can see, the bar is still very low. Let me say some words of introduction. Matt and Cameron Fradd are passionate advocates for marriage and family life, bringing a dynamic and authentic perspective to their talks. Married for over 15 years, they draw from their own experience as a couple raising a family while navigating the challenges and joys of married life. Matt is a renowned speaker, author, and host of the popular Pints with Aquinas podcast, while Cameron is a vibrant storyteller and former missionary with a deep love for sharing the beauty of authentic relationships. I'm going to go a little bit off script here because there's something else about Matt that's not on his bio sheet, and that is that he is also an accomplished songwriter. Did you know that? Did you know that Matt has written a song about squirrels called Mr. Squirrel? And I hear it's a profoundly moving experience. Maybe we'll be the first audience in this tour to hear that. I'm just putting it out there, Matt. No pressure, but every other Tom, Dick and Harry has sang up here, so you know. But back to the official bio. Their presentation is designed to inspire, challenge, and encourage couples at all stages of their journey. Whether you're newly engaged, married for decades, or simply curious about what makes a marriage thrive, Matt and Cameron's insights are sure to leave you with a renewed vision of the beauty and the purpose of this sacred vocation. Please make them welcome.
Poor Liam, look at him looking at us. It's a terrible photo. Why would you do that? No, not at me. I look great.
I personally like Peter's dirty knee.
Glory
That's
to Jesus
real life,
Christ.
you know.
I want to say thank you to the dear Olivia and her beautiful pianist for leading us in that worship song. That was glorious. People who say we need guitars in Mass are clearly wrong.
You just need a living.
I would like to lead us in a Hail Mary. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. St. Mary MacKillop, pray for us. George Cardinal Pell, pray for us. Amen. Well, you might think, gee, I wonder what they've got in store for us. I wonder what they've got planned. Nothing. We We know they want us to talk about marriage.
Yeah. But you want to talk about?
I don't know. That's it, just marriage.
Yeah.
Hopefully the podcast format has prepared them for this laid-back, completely unscripted, put no effort into it conversation.
Isn't that what y'all want? Isn't that why you came? Right? See, they're excited.
I don't know, they didn't seem that excited.
All right, who's excited? Let's hear it. I knew it. Way to go, Melbourne. They're excited. Our marriage is technically old enough to drink in your country.
That's true.
Not in my country, but in your country.
18 years. So anyway, yeah, we would love to talk about marriage, and I think what we'll do is we'll just chat for 30 minutes, because whenever I listen to people talk, I'm bored within moments. It says more about me than you. But then, I would love us to do some Q&A. So maybe we could kind of cover some topics broadly, and then if you have specific particular questions, that's where the fun happens, you know? It's not like they have a choice, right? So let's start with this, my good woman. Chesterton said, "There is nothing so extraordinary in the world as an ordinary man, his ordinary wife, and their ordinary children." It's nice to be married to you.
Those are our ordinary kids up there. Okay, this was actually such a gift, this photo shoot. I don't know where they got this picture from, but probably the worst article that anyone ever wrote on you was written for this. No, you don't. Well, it just wasn't accurate. God bless her. She's just not a good author. We all have different gifts. But the author may not have been talented for this particular Catholic magazine, but the photographer was extremely talented. And what I loved is she just had us like walk, and she just got tons of candid pictures, and she just took like 2 minutes. And I'm like, surely none of those came out. Like there was 200 amazing photos. I mean, not poor Liam in this one, but
He would die.
he would die. Nobody put this online. Kiara though, like look how adorable she is. Yeah, Peter's kissing my head.
All right, come on, we're going to do something more than this.
Sorry. Yes. G.K. Chesterton quote. It's
How
a good
about, what if we
quote.
did this? What if we broke this little conversation up into 3 segments? Right? Dating, engagement can be 1. Marriage and the joys of marriage can be 2. And then raising kids can be 3.
Love it.
That sounds good?
Yes,
Now here's the thing. We're very old.
that's fair.
And so I'm increasingly of the opinion that I don't understand young people and how they date today. We can talk about how we dated, what we're glad we did, maybe more generally what we think would be good advice.
Sounds good.
But whenever I speak to a young person about marriage, they look at me like, you have no idea what's going on, do you? I thought I did.
And then if you want more up-to-date advice, you can ask our lovely singer and her husband, because they've been married 2 years.
Come on.
So they understand dating world now. There's some people in this room I can see clearly are older than us. So they're probably thinking, you're not old, I'm bloody old. But we would happily share. And yeah, it's probably a little different from when we dated. But go ahead.
I was 22 when I met you. Wasn't it?
Sounds about right.
22. And we were really close friends. I thought you were cool, funny, all that, even as a woman.
Thanks.
And I was living in Australia, you were living in America, and I was discerning the priesthood, and I was also lacking you.
There's a priest here that spoke to you on the phone, actually.
About what?
You called him, he had discerned with the CFRs, and you called him and y'all had a chat, because he also, I don't know, maybe he was with the Capuchin? Yeah, at the time, and he had a phone conversation. So I was chatting with him, and he basically was like, you're welcome. My advice didn't work, he didn't join, you got a husband.
Well, anyway, I don't... There's a great quote which you may have heard me say if you've listened to my podcast more than once, because I say it every second show. And it comes from Father Bob Bedard. He said, since discernment has become fashionable, no one's made a decision since. And he's being funny, but I think there's something to that. I was discerning the priesthood. I was looking into the MGLs. What's the MGLs? I was looking into the Capuchins. I was looking into the friars, and I was really excited about it. And but I also was kind of falling for this cool American girl. And I gave my mate Dave a call one day, and I said, Dave, I just don't know what to do. And he said a couple of things that really helped me. The first was that you can't walk two paths at once or you'll split yourself in half. You've got to make a decision. Fair enough. Second thing he said was, if you were laying in bed late at night and you heard a noise, you'd be somewhat obligated to get up and investigate what it was. He said, it sounds like the Lord is making a noise with Cameron, as it were, and you need to investigate that. Actually, not 2, 3. Here's the third helpful thing he said. God will communicate with you about his desire for your life in a way that makes sense to you. God is not desiring you to figure out your vocation and then not in any way revealing to you what that might be. As if I was to say to you, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 1,000,000, go. We kind of perceive God's will sometimes like that, don't we? And so I thought, all right, I think the Lord's calling me to this. And I remember I went into my bedroom, I took out my journal, and I wrote, today I stopped discerning the priesthood, today I start discerning marriage with Cameron. And it was good. And then
It was a good day for me.
Quit my car, sold my job. I want to get your side of the story too, but quit my car, sold my job.
No, you didn't. You didn't quit your car and sell your job.
No, I didn't. I quit my job, sold my car, and then sent several giant boxes of books to Texas and moved there. And, I brought a wedding ring with me, and it wasn't terribly terrific. It was because
I loved it. It was beautiful.
Couldn't afford much, but I had something. I went over there, and I was really excited. I was also really nervous. And I prayed for 3 very specific signs. And guess what? I got none of them. And then one day, after having received the Holy Eucharist, I was on my knees, and I was sort of talking to our Lord, What do you want me to do, Lord, And I don't know if you ever do this, but sometimes you'll kind of talk to yourself, like you'll kind of imagine God speaking to you, and you just try it out and see if it feels right, And so I'm not saying I heard it in a voice or anything, but it was something like, turns out God's very Australian. He said to me, well, do you want to marry her or not? And I said, yes. And God said, and you can write this down, he said, well, you're old enough and ugly enough to figure this out. And so I was all right, okay, I want to marry her. I think sometimes that's like a really helpful question to ask when you're discerning something. Namely, do you want to do it? Yeah. Is it a good thing to do? Yeah. Have you given it some thought? And obviously certain things require different levels of thought. And then if the answer is yes, then the next thing is, all right, well, just do that thing. So I remember I gave my mate Mark Bennett, a call in Brisbane. It was about 2 in the morning this time. And I'm like, hey Mark, I'm just freaking out, man. Like, I love Cameron, obviously, but I don't know. Like, maybe the Lord's calling me to be a priest. I don't know if I should. And he said this, direct quote. What the freaking hell are you talking about, you idiot? What? She's better than you anyway. You need to propose to her before she figures that out. I'm not making this up. That very night, I proposed to the good Cameron. Maybe you have something to say about what we did well and not so well in our singlehood and engagement, and then we could move on to marriage.
Sure. I remember the day, it was actually at a friend's wedding, the day that Matt, I think we were doing the novena, because I knew this day you were going to come up with an answer.
Sounds like something I'd propose.
Yeah. This particular day, and the 9th day of our novena, happened to be my friend's wedding, and I was a bridesmaid. So all of the wedding, I'm standing up there, supposed to be focused on her. I'm not. I'm thinking about me. I'm like, is he going to pursue me or is he going to be a priest? Like, what is it? What is it? And I'm all nervous. And I remember just being like, Lord, help me focus on you. Jesus, focus on you, not on this, right? But this was the main thing on my mind. And I had kind of prepared myself. I'm like, obviously he's going to be a priest. Obviously. And so it was after the wedding, after the reception. We had an amazing time, beautiful, beautiful couple, beautiful wedding. And afterwards, Matt calls me and he's like, hey, I want you to know I've decided. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for this. And he's like, I've decided I'm going to pursue. I'm like, that's totally fine. I want you to be happy being a priest. Move to New York, shave your head, grow a beard. See if I even care. He's like, I don't think you heard me. I'm like, no, I heard you, it's fine. And he's like, yeah, but I don't think you actually heard what I said. And I was like, sorry, what'd you say? And then I was very humble and was like, what? Oh, okay, cool. Let's do this. I don't even care. Yes. Rejoicing, doing a little party. And I was really excited. And I had discerned religious life prior. I remember someone telling me that the attributes that'll make you a good wife and a good mom would also make you a good sister. And it's the same with guys. Or nun. Yeah, sorry, my sister, I named nun. And I think it's the same with guys. Like they're similar. They're the same virtues that make you a good holy priest that'll make you a good holy husband and father.
Now, I was afraid, and I think that's one of the reasons I avoided you, and maybe even one of the reasons I was discerning the priesthood, was because I was quite convinced that I would make a bad husband, actually. Like in every respect. Like I wouldn't be able to provide for you. I wouldn't be a good lover. I wouldn't be able to be a good father. I'd screw that up somehow. Like, I don't even have a university degree, which apparently was a big deal when you were living in the 90s. And sure it is still now, ECU. So that's why I didn't want to be a priest. That's why I wanted to be a priest, because I was just so afraid, and I realized my desire for this is really coming more out of fear.
Yeah, I remember just trying to trust and ask the Lord to take care of it. Although I wanted to control it, I wanted to figure it out. I wanted to know, like, okay, where will we be in 18 years from now? In Melbourne, room, auditorium full of people, and we'll be giving a talk on marriage. Like, I wanted to know this part back then, and it was really hard just to be in the moment. And I remember trying to just surrender over and over again. And some days were better than others at it. But I had hope and I had trust in the Lord, and He's so good.
I think there's something very beautiful about the idealism and enthusiasm and passion of youth. And I think sometimes when you get older, you think, I wish I could go back and have that wisdom. And I'm like, I don't know, I think it's kind of good. It's the narrator in the Brothers Karamazov says this of Alyosha, something to the effect of, you know, if you encounter a young man or a young woman without that sort of passion of youth, like that's not a good sign actually. So I love that we just launched into it. We often say if we waited until we were ready to be married, we may have got married 5 years ago. And I know this isn't everybody's story, but I'm thrilled that we got to kind of grow up together.
Yeah, me too. Yes.
What else? Before they threw up.
Okay. I forgot what you asked.
Well,
Dating.
What did we do wrong?
Well, one thing we did right was I feel like we...
It's okay. Glass half full. Go for it.
He's glass half empty, I'm glass half full. So I'm like, I'd rather talk about the positive. One thing I think we did do right was like, we didn't overly discern it. Like we were kind of, okay, yes, if this is what the Lord's calling us to do, let's do it. I remember telling friends I was engaged. I'm like, oh my goodness, congratulations. Sorry, you have a boyfriend? I'm like, oh yeah. He moved here from Australia last month, now we're getting married. And it was really fun and exciting, and I think everybody was shocked, especially my family. But once they met Matt, they were like, oh, this makes sense, you're both crazy. My dad said that we have a way of going through...
Stepping in manure and smelling like roses.
Yeah, stepping in manure, but our faith is so strong in God, we somehow end up just smelling like roses, and not like the manure, which is nice.
Well, this is crazy. I got fired on my birthday a month before our wedding.
Which technically made him illegal in my country. So I married...
It wasn't today, am I right?
An illegal alien.
Yeah, and then... and your Prime Minister would have to send a friggin' jet over. Illegal, unemployed, and then also our honeymoon in the Dominican Republic couldn't happen.
We technically could have gone, but you wouldn't have been able to get back into the country.
Yeah, and I remember calling your dad and being like, "Sup?" But he was great about it. I think what was beautiful is that I would say, because of the good work of many evangelists like Jason Everett and Christopher West and Pope John Paul II and others, we had really been convicted by the message of saving sexual marriage. This understanding that you're actually worth waiting for. And actually, I'm not like a dog in heat who doesn't have reasoning capacity or self-control. And so we can save sexual marriage, and by God's grace we did. And I think it was like, if we hadn't led the life that the world told us, who the heck knows where we'd be now, not in a good place, I'm sure. But, when I was like, you were like, my friend has like a lake house in Texas.
No, it wasn't even a friend, it was one of my teens. I was a youth minister. So one of the teens, I was talking to him one day at like youth group, and I was explaining, we can't, and he's like, you could use like the Canavan if you want. I was like, oh my goodness, that would be amazing. He's like, it's like an A-frame and there's bunk beds. I'm like, how much is it? He's like, free. I'm like, that's our budget. And we loved it. It was amazing.
We would give chastity talks around Texas, and for the last few months we invited everyone to our wedding. So all the teenagers, we would give this chastity talk that we get married next month. You can come, not to the reception, please, you can go to McDonald's, but you can at least come to the liturgy. So that was beautiful. We got married, and gosh, what shocked you most about marriage? Did we move into marriage?
We can, but can I say something about your uncle?
What? He said a lot of things.
So Matt's uncle's not really religious, and like not into his faith at all, and they came to America. It was his first time going to America. He saw the Grand Canyon. He did all these amazing, wonderful things, and he's like, something happened in that church. I don't know what it was, but it was worth coming all the way from Australia.
It certainly wasn't the guitars we had.
No, it wasn't. But I think he saw the taste of the sacred, right? It was a beautiful mass and
awesome.
Marriage.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just think that was really.
People would say to me, all the sins of your past will swell up during the intimacy time, and none of that happened. It was just beautiful and free and wonderful. And what's interesting is I remember the next day I would talk to some of my groomsmen, and I remember distinctly having a conversation, maybe with one of the fellas who's a solid Catholic, and be like, it was a great night, it was beautiful, like a free gift, all that, And he's like, that's awesome, dude, and it was beautiful. And then I remember saying to my secular friend who wasn't a Christian and was living with his girlfriend, kind of the same thing. It's like, whoa, way too much information. So it's interesting. Who's free here,
Another really beautiful moment at our wedding was our priest is a really dear friend of ours, and he's like a dad. So his name's actually Monsignor William Young, very professional, but to my kids, he's Grandpa Father Bill. And it was really beautiful. The wedding, I think it was probably the closest thing he had to giving away his daughter. And at one point during the wedding, he got teary-eyed, and he's praying over us, and he couldn't quite say the words because he got choked up. And I put my hand out to kind of put it around him to kind of comfort him. And then at the same time, Matt put his arm around me, and it was this really beautiful, a friend took a picture and mentioned it afterwards, and they were like, it was this really beautiful Trinitarian love thing, where it's he loved both of us so much and cared so much about us. And when he found out Matt got fired, he was so good. He made sure, I was going on a retreat, and he's like, oh, by the way, I figured it out, Matt's going with you now. And you know how you were taking a week off for the honeymoon? Well, now it's 3 weeks, so you guys can figure it out, and just was just such a good, holy man. I feel like we were really blessed to have a lot of friends that supported us well in that. And we had other young married couple friends that I feel like we got to look to and model, okay, they have marriages like we want, and this is what we're going to do to try to get a marriage like theirs.
Cheers. Speak a little louder. Right. Okay, I want to say two things. I shared this last night. When we had our first child, who was an amazing kid, now an amazing young man, love him, respect him, powerful kid. But it was I remember it being really difficult for me, and I felt really guilty that I found it really difficult. Because every time I would speak to people who had children, they would tell me what a blessing it was. And I knew that, but I found it really, I'm actually understating just how brutal I found it. And then the guilt for finding it brutal. And then sharing with people who just couldn't relate. And it's quite lonely, isn't it, I think, when you try to share a rough time that you're going through and people are like, yeah, but what a blessing. And the reason I say that, I guess, is to bring up a broader point. And that's that we shouldn't compare our inside to somebody else's outside. Whether that's in a dating relationship, a marriage relationship, or raising children. Because the fact is, every one of us in here, obviously we're very similar, in that we're human, or Australian maybe, or what have you. But we're actually very different. We have different temperaments, different backgrounds, different desires, different fears, different maybe wounds from childhood or whatever. And so sometimes I think when we compare ourselves to each other, it's kind of crippling. And it's true with, as I say, with family, it's also true with children.
Yeah, and I think, so for the amazing, beautiful Catholic community we had in Texas when we got married, we lacked that completely when we moved to Ireland. So we lived in a very tiny rural area where we had 0 friends and 0 support. And then I had an extremely rough pregnancy where I was hospitalized more than I wasn't. And when it came time to have the baby, I almost died. The baby almost died. It was very traumatic. I had an emergency C-section that I couldn't even stand until, I think it was day 7. It was, traumatic is an understatement.
I'm glad you brought this up because it's good to give the context. We were living in a freezing cold house with no friends.
Yes.
And then a child who cried constantly.
He was colicky, he screamed nonstop. So we had to make sure we were home by 3 p.m. because that's when the screaming really began. And it wouldn't stop till probably 3 a.m. And both of us, this is how we talked to each other. Yeah, honey, how's it going? How's it going? Because we had to be bouncing him or he would be blood-curdling screaming.
All right, maybe we can begin to bring this to a close. I don't know how, because I really am looking forward to the Q&A. Can I say something about my Birkenstock analogy, which I freaking love?
Yes.
Here's my Birkenstock analogy. You slap me when you get bored. So I love Birkenstocks, I don't care what you say, they're terrific. But you talk to a physiotherapist or someone like that and they say, well, they're not necessarily good for you. If you're standing kind of funny, then the Birkenstock will just mold to the funny way that you're standing and it'll feel comfortable, but it won't correct the problem. And I would say over the last 5 or 10 years, Cameron and I have realized that, well, this is my new analogy, is in a way marriage is like Birkenstocks. Like it conforms to the funny ways that you're standing, the funny ways that you're relating, the kind of maybe not so helpful ways of communicating that you learned as a child. And here's what I mean by the forming funny. So I would say, not to speak for you, you're welcome to expand on this, but that you grew up in a family where you felt that your role was to make everyone okay. I grew up, I would say, just sort of kind of emotionally kind of dumping on people and just some other immaturities, I would say. And so then when we got into marriage, I would find that I would kind of look to her to make things okay. If you would have asked me if that's what I was doing, I don't think I would have known. But that is what I was doing, which is not a terribly masculine thing to do, actually, as the leader of the home, to sort of look to your wife to make you okay constantly. That's one thing, right? If you're dealing with something traumatic or, legitimate, of course. But this continual pattern of looking to her to make me okay, but she had learned in her childhood how to make people okay, you see. And so I'd say for the first 15 years of our marriage, it kind of worked, right? It fit like Birkenstocks, and it worked until it didn't. And I think that's something that a lot of marriages are probably going to have to experience, no matter what it is, the kind of dysfunctional ways of relating. And it was through a good friend and through therapy, and of course it's still an ongoing journey, where the Lord kind of, and I'll close here, went to work, the good Jesus went to work in my heart and yours. And it was separate, and it was wild, and the spiritual warfare that surrounded that was so intense. It's now looking at it, I can understand what it was. At the time, it just felt like everything was falling apart. But I would say what was really beautiful is as the Lord kind of healed my heart, and still is, I was able to sort of step into my role as husband and like kind of fight for her and kind of love her well, be strong for her. And what I found was, as I was able to step into that, you had the freedom to soften, in a sort of beautiful, feminine, receptive way. And I think things have, and as I want to keep reiterating, this is going to be something that the journey the Lord's going to continue to take us on. But it's been really beautiful to see, I just think our marriage is better than it's ever been. Did you think, in a way?
Yeah, I think for a while, we would say, for a while now, we've been saying that our wounds are just rubbing up against each other. So I think at first it was, you're doing that because you hate me. And then we realized, no, this is hitting something in you, and it's hitting something in me. And it was just like, our wounds are really rubbing up against each other right now. And I think my thing was more, making sure everything was okay, but also, it's fine, everything's fine, I don't need help. And I remember at one point, early in marriage, we had friends that kind of intervened. It was like, you need to admit that you have a hard child. I'm like, no I don't, we're fine, he's totally fine, we're great. We haven't slept in a year, but we're really good. I'm like, he's falling apart, and if you don't admit that this is hard, y'all are just gonna drift apart. And in the moment, I was angry with this friend, but I was so grateful that she brought it up. And then more recently, I don't know if everyone's ever read The Body Keeps the Score, but that really, I had a miscarriage 7 years ago, and I almost died, and I was in the ICU and in hospital for a long time, and I was so sick, my body just broke, and it was really hard, and I tried to figure it out and hold it together and get everyone back, and I do think we've been on this healing journey for the last, 5 years or so, and our whole marriage, I feel like, but especially more intimately and more intensely the last few years. And it's been really good. It's been hard, and it's hard to, and I think we've gotten better at communicating, and I think this is, if you had asked me when we first got married, are you good at communicating? I'm like, yeah, we're great. Hindsight, we weren't so great. We thought we were, and we were doing the best we could, but we've gotten better over the years as we've gotten to know each other better, and as we've been more comfortable to say, this is what I really need. And it's hard, and you have to be vulnerable in it, and you have to be willing to...
That's beautiful. I'll let you finish it, but I just want to kind of put a spotlight on that. To be able to communicate to your spouse, here's what I need. Because I think maybe there's this false piety, where it's well, if I were holy, then maybe I wouldn't, so I need to pretend I am, and act as if I am, as opposed to kind of admitting, I'm kind of not, and here's really what I need from you. And maybe it's not really a need, it feels like a need.
Yeah, and I think,
what's the alternative? You don't communicate that?
Well, here's the thing. I think it's a level of intimacy and intimacy, and you're showing someone. There's this beautiful painting, I think it's a Rembrandt, and it's Doubting Thomas, and it's Jesus, showing his wound on his side and taking Thomas's hand and putting it in it and saying and in marriage, you're if you want to hurt me, this is where you'd hurt me. And it's hard because they may hurt you, and it's going to hurt so bad. But by exposing the wound, they can then help heal you. And they can help you know. So when they bring it up, it's different because I think early in marriage, we both put on our boxing gloves and fight each other.
With your armor, right?
Yes.
And the Lord was calling you to take your armor off. Which is actually a stupid thing to do if you're in battle. You know what I mean? It's kind of when people say, don't get defensive. If someone's attacking you, defensive is precisely what you should be. And whether that battle or attack is actual or illusory, your response is rational.
Yeah.
Rational in the sense that it's an appropriate response to a perceived threat. It might sometimes happen.
Sometimes Matt will bring something up to me, and he'll go, whoosh, whoosh. like Wonder Woman, you know how she does that thing with her arms? And that's his way of letting me know I'm like not hearing what he's saying, deflecting with my
bracelets.
armor. My beautiful bracelets. But yeah, I think that I learned at a very young age that I could take care of everything, and I had a lot of armor, and it was good that that part of me did that because I survived childhood and some really hard years. But that armor that protected me in one season is now crippling me in another, and I felt like the Lord was calling me to take it off. Like, I need to be, and my body was breaking, my body was screaming at me, like this isn't working. And the more I tried to white knuckle it and figure it out, the more my body broke, and it was really hard. And so having to slowly take down the armor and put down my guard and trust.
And what's tough, right, is, you know, like you're not married to St. Joseph. Like I'm not married to the Blessed Virgin Mary. So the fact is we're going to take our armor down and occasionally like actually get hurt. You know, and then the lie rushes in, like this is why I shouldn't do that, that's why I can't trust this person, that's why I can't open up. But I love how you put it, that it's like this intimacy is this continual vulnerability where I show you who I am and give you the freedom to hurt me if you want. It's a hard place to be in, but the alternative just leads to hell, I think. What else should we talk about before we wrap up?
I feel like that may be a good place to
Okay.
wrap up. Do y'all have questions?
Yeah, so hang on, just one sec, because I think they're gonna, yeah, I'll let you come up, and then, yeah, feel free to ask whatever you want. We're an open book, we'll do our best. But again, I just want to stress that, like, I think you go on YouTube right now and you might find like these power couples with their advice, and you know, like, maybe it's not appropriate, it doesn't help you. I remember my spiritual father said to me something recently as I spoke to him. He said, there's enough in your marriage to teach you what you need to know about this. Which was, I think, just such a wise thing to say. So if anything we're kind of saying tonight, or will say tonight, you're like, that actually is unhelpful. Okay, just that's okay, you can drop it. But, yeah.
So what we'll do is open the floor to questions. I might get, if you have a question, maybe come and line up actually here. But we're going to have some really strict rules. This isn't time for long speeches, long comments. Please just ask a question. If your question needs a prelude, make it short. We want to maximize Matt and Cameron's speaking time. If it looks like you're going to go too long, I'm going to step in. So please don't take it personally. I don't mean to be rude, but I will be if we need to move along, okay? So...
Hi, thanks for being here. I'd love to hear from you about how you've worked together to nourish your children's faith journey, mindful that children are so different, and how you might, keep that going towards their adulthood. Hopefully they can discern fellow Catholic, someone special in their life as adults. So thanks for sharing.
So I had this idea that what your parents failed you in often becomes the litmus test for yourself as to what makes you a good parent. So if your parents, let's say, your mom was never around, or your dad never came to your sports games, and that really hurt you, I think we kind of can become blinded to everything else except this one thing. I think for me, I was exposed to porn at the age of 8, which wreaked havoc in my life, and I made a vow, in a way, like my children are not going to see pornography. Which is obviously a good thing to desire. But I think in some ways it kind of blinded me to other things that I should be doing or shouldn't have been doing. I'm not sure it's possible to receive this advice when you're about to have a child. Like, for example, if I could go back and talk to 25 when we had our first child, year-old Matt Fradd, he wouldn't have listened to me. But I would have sat with him and went, hey, look at me. You are so deeply loved. Everything is fine, and you can just relax, and all will be well. You have everything you need, and of course you don't have enough, but in another way you do have enough, and all will be well. Just be patient with yourself and with your bride and with your children, because it was that lack of patience with myself, with how our marriage was, with how our kids were, it kind of led to this lack of peace, which I think just made things more difficult. And so when it comes to the faith, like early father, Matt Fradd, would get really angry when he's praying the rosary with his kids. Yeah, like what kid wants to pray a rosary where you're like, Hail Mary, say it! Yeah. And like how much of that comes from like my own woundedness, right? Where I'm trying to like, for me to be worthy to God, I have to live up to some imagined, idealized version of the family rosary. I've got these ideas of the Hahn family, you know, Scott's got to pull his kid down again because he keeps levitating. And you know, we're like that in lots of respects, whether it has to do with our sex life or whether it has to do with our finances or how we raise our children. We keep comparing our inside to other people's outside. But one thing I think we've done well, and I'll give you the mic, is one, I'm thrilled that we chose to homeschool. We had no idea what we're doing. In some ways, we kind of still don't. I just love that our children are close. I also think one thing we've done well is just kind of talked openly about our faith a lot, and we've had good friends, and so the same kind of, hopefully, wisdom that came from us is also coming from different heads. And then finally, I'm a big fan of the nightly rosary, but not for cool, pious reasons that you all are interested. Like for me, I think it was Jose Maria Escriva who said, let your nightly rosary be like a warm hearth where the children naturally wish to gather. Now, I don't know if I could have heard that when I was 25, but now I get it. It's beautiful. At the end of the day, my good wife, she'll light candles, you know, and we'll just sit in the dark. We're like, all right, kids, pray the rosary, come on. And here's how unimpressive it is. If someone's like, I don't want to, I'm like, okay, go to bed. Okay. But they do want it. I'm like, stick around for a decade. Cool. And then, you know, Peter is under his blanket playing with Lego. Don't care. Could it be better? Yeah. But if I try to make it as good as I think it needs to be, like, it'll just be awful. So it's now what's happened, though, is because of the peace that's come about through the family rosary, we're actually entering into it a lot more. It's a lot more beautiful. All right.
Yeah, I think having a good... I looked over and there's like a manly-looking guy. I'm like, that is not the woman I was talking to. Sorry. There you are. Okay, so yes, I think having a really good parish, like we would drive further away to go to a really good parish than to stay at one closer, where maybe things were done that were confusing. Our kids are particular about a priest who inspires them and says things clearly. We let them to go to confession often. We don't make them, but we make it possible. Where it's like, hey, we're going. Would you like to come? Trying to have other good, holy people in their lives. So homeschooling, I think it's a little easier because we choose who their friends are and who they aren't, because we hang out with the families that we want our kids to be around. And so it's like positive peer pressure coming from that way too, right? Like I remember one day, my 12-year-old was like, Mom, can we please go to Mass in the morning at 7 a.m. because the twins are going and I want to see them. I mean, I don't want to get up at 7 a.m., but sure, yeah, let's do that. You know, like being around other families that are also have the same moral values as us is huge. And then setting them up for success. So our oldest, we were blessed to live in Steubenville, so it's a great university. And he's going to be going there this upcoming year, and he's going young. Normally in the States you don't go until you're 18 or 19, but we're letting him go at 17 because he has such good friends. Like his friends are other young men who are striving for holiness. They're going to the sacraments. They're good people. So I think finding good friends for your kids and then being an example, but not forcing. Because if you're like, you must do this, they're going to rebel.
And then we'll keep our answers shorter, sorry. There's a lot of you there, I guess. But yeah, I think also to keep in mind that Adam and Eve had the actual best parent and they decided to ruin their lives. And so to keep in mind that to not let the devil steal your peace if your children just decide to destroy themselves. Like, they're welcome to do it, and you actually have no control over that ultimately. And yeah, you've made mistakes, and I've made mistakes, but they're ultimately in charge of their life. And so, yeah, just if you are in that place where you're kind of disappointed with the kind of decisions your children have made, just to keep entrusting them to the Lord Jesus, to fast, to pray the rosary for them, and to take a holistic interest in their life. not just an interest in the things you think they're not doing well, because who wants a friend like that or a parent like that? Yeah.
Thanks for being here and for giving the talk. It's actually been very informative in many ways, as much as a blessing. She actually did ask my question as well, but I do have a different one. Cameron, you did bring up the image of St. Thomas and his hand in his side, Jesus' side. Matt, towards you as a man, most of us are kind of taught to carry our own burdens throughout our life without letting others kind of help us in that regards. How did both of you realistically allow yourselves to be so open during your most difficult times, where I guess it could have involved some more difficult circumstances?
I'll be quick. Yeah. And so because I'm being quick, I'm not saying everything I could say, so everyone have mercy on me when I say something insufficiently, which will always be the case. Yeah, I think it's important, obviously, that we share with each other, but I also think it's important that the father takes the brunt of the stress of the family and doesn't go to his wife to dump it on her to then receive emotional or physical comfort from her because the stress is being called to bear. I'm really glad that I have good men in my life who I can go to kind of do that. I'm not saying don't share with your wife. I'm not saying don't talk to her about what's going on in your interior and what the Lord's doing and anything like that. But I think just like it would be inappropriate for parents to sort of, I don't know, take the stress of their marriage and dump it on their children. I mean, how many of us kids have had that happen to us, right? Where for the financial strain of the family or whatever, and you kind of feel unsafe. Now, obviously your wife is different because she's a grown adult, and I'm not trying to infantilize your wife, that's not what I'm saying. But I think as husbands, we are called to lead our families, and there's got to be some of it that we need to take that burden for her, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, and I'd stick with it. I also need good girlfriends in my life that I can share my heart with and what's going on, and they could be support. And I think for you, having good guys that help you through, that you turn to.
It's easy to be vulnerable with someone when they don't swipe at you when you're first being vulnerable. You know, that's how we all engage in friendships, isn't it? You kind of test each other out, how much can I share? And then you quickly go, oh, nothing, all right. And so, and then the friendship's over.
Sorry, one other thing I would add to it is it's important to communicate with each other. So when you do mess up, because you will, because, hello, you're a big sinner like me. And I think going to your spouse and asking forgiveness, like saying the words, I am so sorry that I did this to hurt you, please forgive me. And them saying, I forgive you, because that restores the trust, because we will hurt each other, and continue to be open and honest with that.
Cameron, thank you, and Matt for coming. Sorry, I'm really nervous. So the question is, you seem like a very tough and strong woman, and I feel like these days it's very intimidating for men to see that in a girl like me. And I hear people say, live in your feminine, and this is all I know to be. So if you both have any advice, that'd be greatly appreciated.
I think that when I used to think that I wasn't girly, I'm not a girly girl. I was captain of the wrestling team in high school, so not just a tomboy, but to the extreme. And I used to feel like it wasn't, but I am feminine. I'm just less girly than some other girls. And I think that it was a lie that Satan was whispering to me that I am not feminine because I am strong, because I am loud. I think when you look at a holy card, you're like, oh, that's what it means to be a saint in your little ways. And thinking, that's what I need to be like. But it's not. I need to be who the Lord created me to be. And yes, I can be a louder, stronger, more, I don't know, I don't know if it's I relate more to a Joan of Arc than a Saint Therese, but there's this image that I love, because I'm neither Saint Therese nor Joan of Arc, but the beautiful thing is the Lord hasn't called me to be either of them. He's called me to be me, and He's called you to be you. And the more I look to the Lord and I say, show me who I am, and I become that woman, that's how I become more feminine. That's how I become more beautiful. There's a great image that I love, this picture of the little flower dressed up as Joan of Arc. And I love it because she looked up to her, but she's very different than her. And they're both beautiful, holy women, but they look quite different. And so it would be wrong if she were to look at Joan and say, well, I can't be her, so I'm not going to be a great saint one day. Rather, she accepted herself for the way the Lord made her and said, Lord, help me in my little way serve and love you, right? So I think that when someone tells us this is what it means to be the ideal woman, Our Lady is the perfect ideal woman. And I don't know if you've met some Chaldeans or some Lebanese woman, right? Okay, let me tell you this. So the very first time, so I used to give this talk. It was a mom's group talk. And I used to talk about how Our Lady's fiat was like a powerful, and I talked to a bunch of white Roman Catholics, and like, it wasn't this timid, let your will be done, Lord. I'm like, it's powerful. I'm in a room full of Chaldeans, and they're like, yeah, holy cow, Our Lady Shaw. Like, and it was this fierce, beautiful, powerful, yeah, I love it. You guys are great.
Matt, you gave some really human advice before when you were just saying 3 things. Jesus. Do you want to do it? Is it something you put a lot of thought into and just go with that? For those who are called on a more ordinary, extraordinary path, because I think that's the ordinary grace very much, but sometimes God calls people to something other, like in a less preferred path, like those who really, really, really desire marriage, and then the Lord leads them on a path where it's like, I'd really prefer to go the other way. Or someone like the parents of St. Teresa of Lisieux who really, really, really wanted the religious life. And then the Lord's like, no, I'm going to make some noise here, and I want you to follow that. What would you say to those people? Can you speak into that?
Maybe not, because I don't have the extraordinary path that you're talking about. But I would say, like in the example you gave of Teresa's parents or other examples, it's not that they had no desire for the thing that they eventually ended up in. You know, certainly we're not being called to marry the person we find most disagreeable and unattractive just so we can be so virtuous and offer a love. Like there is going to be, you know, and I mean that's worked out in prayer and spiritual direction. That's what I'd say about that.
Hey, thank you guys so much. I wouldn't be the man I am today without, especially your works through like Pints with Aquinas, etc. So I guess like just going to the chase, how do I'm kind of at the dating stage, how do I approach things like, which would lead to like intimacy, etc., from a pure and, loving perspective, while overcoming the scars of pornography especially? How do I keep the walls up around my peace of mind, my virtue, without being so paranoid that I block out the graces especially?
Yeah, thank you for the beautiful questions. Very lovely of you. Are you married?
Dating.
Oh, awesome. Good for you. Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't worry about it so much. It's like we're all a mixed bag of beauty and ashes. And, I'm sure it doesn't surprise you to realize that this lovely girl, I'm sure she is lovely for your dating, has her own scars and stupidities and self-love and things that she has to overcome. And I think sometimes, I'm not accusing you of this, but certainly the saints have said this, that our sort of maybe obsession with our sins or our woundedness could actually be a sign of self-love, because we're so ashamed or we're so embarrassed that we could sink so low again. Francis de Sales talks about this, like after a fall, even a shameful fall, get up. Don't look at yourself and become despondent. Don't look at others worse than you and grow proud, but look to the good Jesus who loves you and keep moving forward. And so if that's true of shameful sins that we can commit today, certainly it's true of whatever wounds have resulted from sins we've committed in the past. So maybe like a prayer of surrender to the good Jesus and say, hey, I love you, and I trust that you will make up for my deficiencies. And I know that you will, and I thank you that you will. That kind of confidence. Sometimes you'll read the story of Christ in the boat, and what do the disciples say? They say, save us, we're perishing. But the Lord actually rebukes them for that kind of prayer, doesn't he? He says, did you have no faith? And yet so often our prayer sounds like, oh, save me, I'm so wretched, and I'm perishing. I think sometimes rather just to claim what is true. So for those times that maybe I've been impatient with my children, or I said something stupid to my wife, thank you, Lord, that you will make up for the ways that I fail. I praise you because you are good, and that you're doing a good work in me. I just got to go and kneel before the church in which I was baptized in Sydney the other day, so over 40 years ago. I said, Lord, I thank you for the good work you have begun in me, and I thank you that you will bring it into completion, and that you are and will make me a saint. That kind of claiming, I think, is necessary. If we look just to ourselves, you're right to despair. But why do that? It's sort of like Frodo if he were going through the, what's that mountain? What's the...
Mountain Dew.
No. The first mountain they go through. None of this matters, clearly, but let's do it. With a big troll and the stuff.
The Mountain of Moria.
Yeah, Barak, is it that it? Alright, just... Moria, thank you, alright. Alright, here you go, check it out, check it. This is a good analogy, it's even better than the Birkenstocks, so pay attention. If Frodo would be going through Mount Moria and looking at himself, going, do I have what it takes to survive this? It's kind of like a faithless question, right? Like what he should do is to look at Gandalf and say, can I trust Gandalf? And the answer is, oh yeah. Yeah. And so I think sometimes like the question, like, am I going to be good enough for my wife? Am I going to be a good enough father? Like, will I be saved in the end? It's a godless question. It's because it's looking at ourselves and our own resources and wondering if we've made it yet or haven't. Godless question. The question is, will the good Jesus make up for where I fail? And can I trust that the good work he has begun, he will bring into completion? And the answer is, oh yeah, definitely. So God bless you and your beautiful girl.
Matt, when I was talking to you before the event, you were saying you really liked it when you were up in Wollongong and you got challenged by some kind of activist. And you were kind of hoping that would happen here tonight.
Do we have any?
So do you want to go outside and fight?
No.
I just thought I'd put it out there.
Yeah, I was saying to him earlier, I actually feel way more comfortable when people are yelling at me than when they're telling me my podcast has helped them. When they yell at me, like, this is great. I don't know what.
If you disagree and have a challenging question, you get to skip the line. You get to come to the front.
Okay, no, my real question was, you've done a couple of interviews, I know it's a bit off topic, but you've done a couple of interviews about classical education. I really loved when you interviewed Luke Hulley from St. Gregory the Great Academy. I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about classical education, what's good about it.
I mean, I don't know much. I wouldn't be able to speak very well about it, except that I think I'm of the opinion that if all you did with your children is read to them fairy tales, The Lord of the Rings, they'd end up head and shoulders above most kids who go to regular education. So I wanted my children to encounter what was actually beautiful. Like when I grew up, when I was about 15 years old, if you had said to me, like, what do you into? And if I knew you, and I was being honest, the movies I liked were horror or porn. The music I liked was heavy metal. And I still listen to that, right, when I work out or whatever, but it's like, and the food I ate was junk. It was always like the lowest common denominator, the thing that appealed to my basest of passions. I wasn't kind of taught to like cultivate a palate for what was good and beautiful. And it can be difficult, right? It can be difficult to like what's beautiful. Like if my parents would say, like, why don't you read a book? I'm like, because they didn't speak like that. I love my parents. Why don't you read a book? And I was like, well, why would I? Like we have all these VHS cassettes. It's like saying, why don't you eat an apple? Well, why would I have like CCs and Mars bars? I don't understand. But of course, just like I have come to actually, it's funny, like if you'd have told me 10 years ago I'd come to Australia, but I wouldn't be eating like violet crumbles constantly and drinking crap, I wouldn't have believed you. But like all I've had here is like just meat, that's what we do, and I'm not advocating for that or anything. It's just to say, I I've come to enjoy the sort of diet that I have, but it took time. And I think classical education, it teaches us to love what we should love, and to desire what we should desire in a way that a lot of modern education doesn't.
When our kids were little, they memorized poems, and it was really beautiful to see what poems they could memorize. We found ourselves a couple of years ago in Guatemala at a hostel. We were staying at an Airbnb. This hostel was all different people from all over the world, all different walks of life. And they do like family-style dinner, and they had a talent show that night, or an open mic. And our kids asked if they could do it, and our 10-year-old wanted to recite her favorite poem. It was a very rough crowd. Looking around the crowd, there was very few. We were the only Catholics in the room. Sexual jokes, rainbow flags, all sorts of stuff. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And our son's the oldest, and he was like, this is not a good idea. We should get out now. I was like, okay. And they were giving out free shots. And so my kids were like, can we have a shot of juice? And they're like, sure. And I was like, we'll see how it goes. And my 10-year-old told the bartender, I'm going to recite the owl and the pussycat. I was a little nervous, so I said a prayer. This room full of strangers who are like not living anything of a Christian lifestyle, from what we could tell, you could hear a pin drop. Someone else played the guitar, people are cursing, laughing, whatever. But my 10-year-old got up and said The Owl and the Pussycat by Edward Lear. And she went through the whole thing, and you could hear a pin drop. They were all silent and listened, and they were mesmerized by her. And then they all applauded her at the end. And I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. And everyone afterwards was so friendly, and they were so, but like they saw something beautiful and good. No one made a joke about it. And so I thought it was really beautiful. Like when you see truth and beauty, and that's what I love about, I mean, I don't know as much about classical education, but I feel like people can see that, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Matt and Cameron. Love your work, especially your podcast. I just want to ask, do you have practical advice for married couples, especially like for friends and family who just converted or just knowing about Catholic teaching, who are looking to transition from a contraceptive mindset and lifestyle to being open to life and implementing NFP, especially like parents and the older generations who are used to that lifestyle?
I think that one of the most beautiful things that we can do, so like our wedding day, we stand in front of everyone, the church, all of our friends, our family, and we say, I have come here freely to give of myself totally and completely to you without holding anything back. And our wedding night, we get to say that with our body. And there's something really, really beautiful when that love that you and your spouse shares, you get to name it 9 months later. Like it is such a gift. And I think seeing your children as gifts and asking the Lord, because like your views are twisted, especially if you've been raised in a contraceptive mindset, which I was raised in. And it was, Lord, please untwist my views. Please untwist the way that I see myself, the way I see my husband, or the way I see children, and let me see it through your eyes, and just pray that, and the Lord will change your heart. And like the beauty of natural family planning, I think there's a booth out here. There's an NFP booth. I don't know what direction it is, but wherever you were walking in, there's a booth. And you can ask them more questions. It is such a gift because it allows the Lord to work. And
Yeah, just one real quick thing. Jason Everett has an excellent talk on this. At one point, I think it's called Life-Giving Love. But I would go on YouTube and look up Jason Everett, contraception. Please watch that video. That man is absolutely gifted at communicating the faith. Thanks.
Hey guys, I was just wondering if you guys ever became more in love with each other than with God, and how did you navigate your way back to God?
Depends what you mean by love, eh? Like it's It's like, I know you don't mean this because you're a good Catholic, but a lot of people by that question would take you to mean, do we ever like feel more affection for each other than for God? And I think one way to know if I'm choosing my wife over God is if I'm sort of engaging in sin, or I'm refraining from virtuous actions that I ought to be engaging in because of her, and vice versa. But no, I've never felt that. I mean, I would say that there are times that I look to her when I should be looking to God. You know, like this deep existential angst that we all feel in our bones because we're about to frickin' die. And then you become 40 or 50 and you get the smell of death in your nostrils and it's much clearer than it used to be. And you see the end of the runway. Right? This is why people like abandon their wife. Right? They go and try to find salvation like in something younger, right? Or whatever the case may be. There is no escaping the cross, though. Like there's no escaping death. And so, why was I talking about the existential? Let me finish. Yeah, so in those times, what are you going to do? And I think it's like if you turn to the person next to you and cling to them for dear life, like make things well. They can't, actually. Like no one can. Yep. And so, have there been times that I think, looked to her instead of like, focusing my energy in contemplative prayer or reading the scriptures or engaging with the good Father who loves me? Yes. So in those times, I suppose you could say I looked to her instead of the one my heart loves, and in that sense it's been problematic.
I'm sorry, I was just going to make a joke. I said, so says the melancholic 40-year-old. But no, I think it reminds me of, apparently a mom one time wrote to C.S. Lewis and said, I'm afraid that my son loves Aslan more than God. And so I think when things are in right order, so I think you're exactly right. Like if I am loving my spouse the way the Lord's called me to love him, then it's leading me closer to God. And when I become a better wife, I'm becoming a better woman, I'm becoming a better daughter of God. So I think having that in check. But I also agree, like sometimes you can't, like asking your spouse to tell you your worth and your dignity, tell me who I am. That's not fair. That's putting a hat on a rack. That's not meant to carry that. Like, two half people don't make a whole marriage. Two whole people make a whole marriage. So I need to be getting my worth and dignity from the Lord. He needs to be doing the same. And then our marriage can be really good and strong. And then we focus on the kids, right? So your spouse, like God has to be first, spouse second, children third. And y'all are like fourth, or maybe 10, I don't know.
Hi Matt, big fan of your Aquinas. So on one of your episodes, you had Pearl Davis debate Trent Horn on marriage. She highlighted the risk of marriage, such as divorce, mothers who are winning custody over their children, and later on men depression. Any ideas on how to overcome that? And as a pro-life warrior here in Melbourne, I just want to ask, how do we push for pro-life policies when Joe De Bruyn here in October was speaking a speech comparing abortion to the death of World War II and was booed here in this college?
Yeah, okay, so regarding the first, I would say just go and watch that debate because I think Trent did a much better job than I could. By the way, Pearl was lovely. I think her ideas, some of them I'm sympathetic to, but overall I thoroughly disagree with her. And I thought Trent did an excellent job in that exchange, so people could check that out if they wanted to. Regarding the pro-life fight, we should control what we can control and give to the Lord what we can't. I think that's just good advice in general. What are the things the Lord has given me authority over? How can I use my gifts and talents to benefit it? And then what am I not in control? I think it's in Timothy, but I'm not sure, where Paul says to preach the gospel in season and out of season. And there's going to be times that a message like, you shouldn't kill innocent people, is going to resonate, and there's going to be a time that it doesn't. But we should continue to do that, and do that in a creative and even winsome way to try to win the culture over. And God bless those wonderful people who are doing the best they can. And even if it looks like an ultimate failure during our lifetime, there are still going to be thousands, if not tens of thousands of people who choose life and whose lives are changed, and whose soul may be saved forever because of the work you do in this area.
Yeah, and I don't know if you have a really good pro-life center here, but if you do, go buy diapers and give it to them. Go buy baby clothes, give it to them, ask them what they need. One of the areas where we were speaking was Aubrey, is that how I say it?
Yes.
Aubrey? Okay, you know the town I'm talking about. Good job, people. We spoke at a pro-life gala, and this woman is beautiful. Pizza runs this ministry, and go on our Instagram page or Perusia Media Instagram page and support them if you don't have something here. But they offer free counseling, and they have this beautiful coffee shop, and they just help counsel women that have had abortions. They help, they're doing amazing things. So focus on that where you can control and give money to good organizations like that that are trying to help and trying to love.
I just want to make a pitch before we continue. We have a bunch of books up the back for sale, and I want you to know right now that a big portion of the proceeds from these books go to help needy children. Mine. So if you could, please buy them. In all honesty, it supports the work of Perusia Media, who have brought us out here, and we're super grateful for it. We got books on pornography, on God's existence, on virtue and happiness, so please hit it up on the way out, and I'm happy to go sign books. At the end, it'll make it a few bucks more in the garage sale one day. So. Yeah.
Hi, Matt and Cameron. Thank you very much for your amazing wisdom tonight. For communication, women having the gift of intuition and men hopefully having the gift of rationale, how can the two complement each other and not draw conflict?
Yeah, certainly I think both men have intuition and rationale, and women as well. I think her and I are a little different. What you said earlier was beautiful. I remember a while ago, Cammy, you used to say things on podcasts like, I'm not a girly girl, and I think I challenged you on that. Because I think sometimes we buy into this narrative that worked well for us at some point, but that's ultimately unhelpful. So when I was a teenager, I didn't like football. I didn't I wish I did. I could have related to my dad and my uncles better. But I was super into music and poetry and things like that. And if I had have taken from that, but I'm somehow less of a man or something, it just would have been wrong. So back to your point about I think sometimes in our culture we want the accidents of manhood and femininity without the substance. But I don't know. People are very different, aren't they? So I remember I was listening to Michael Knowles yesterday. And Michael Knowles was giving this example about how, generally speaking, women don't like negotiating. They don't like conflict, which is why they might not ask for a raise or something like that. And I was just that's just not my experience. She loves tense situations and she loves negotiating. And I'm fine, but it's I'd rather just pay it. It's awkward. I don't want to keep having this conversation. And I think in a day and age like this, where we don't know, and by we I mean our stupid culture, if we have one. I don't know if we do. Where we don't know what men are, we don't know what women are, we don't know what sex is, we don't know what marriage is. And I think right now there's this new desire to figure out what those things are, right? And we're I need to know. Tell me what to do. What are the roles of a husband? What are the roles of a wife? I want to do that thing. I'm tired of being evangelized by feminism or the porn industry. I want to love my wife well, or I want to love my husband well. How do I do that? Which is so good. But sometimes I think that as we seek to reclaim what should have been ours but was lost, we want to be careful that we don't come up with so rigid a definition that we think the woman's always, and I know you're not saying this, I'm not accusing you of saying it, but the woman always has great intuition, and the man's always rational, whereas the wife sometimes isn't, and the man doesn't have intuition. But do you have an understanding of how they go together? And also, you should tell Leah with the time I called you irrational. That was a good joke.
One time we were arguing, and I got a little heated, and Matt told me I was being irrational, and I said, well, if I'm being irrational, it's because I'm pregnant. And if I'm pregnant, it's no, I messed it up. That wasn't it, was it? Yeah, no, I had it. I messed up, sorry. Yeah, if I'm being irrational, it's because I'm pregnant. And if I'm pregnant, it's your fault. So I won the argument.
And I should have said, it's my fault, it's because you're so pretty. But I didn't. I was just, fair enough.
Yeah, very good. Go ahead. Thank you.
All right, sorry. So we go. Good luck.
Sorry. baby, so I'm going to let her talk. Hopefully I can see his face, or her face. Oh, so cute.
Thank you. Can you just comment on, you both have lived away from your families, you've both lived away from your communities. Has that affected you both and your marriage?
I just looked down and I thought of one more thing I want to say. I've brought these miraculous medals and they're on these ropes. And I'd love to give them to you for free. The only deal is you have to wear it. So don't take one if you're not going to wear it. But I've got like 200 up there. And the Blessed Virgin is the best. And Max Milling always referred to the miraculous medal as a spiritual bullet, which I think is kind of cool. Okay, how have we dealt with living away from our family? Yeah, it's been really tough. But I mean, it's been 18 years, and so it's gotten easier over time. Certainly I love my family and ideally would love to be with them, but realistically I live in a small country town in South Australia where I think it would have been really difficult to raise my children in the faith. And so even though there's been times it's been difficult to live in the United States, we've always been in a community, or tried to be in a community of really amazing, encouraging people. And I would much rather be away from my extended family for the good of my current family and the souls of my children, than to be located next to my family, even though that's a great good, but maybe realizing or seeing down the road, I think that this isn't going to work for them. Obviously, both would be ideal, but that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, and I think see a need, fill a need. So finding good friends to do life with and letting them know when you need help and offering to help when you see someone in need. So one thing that I just saw a picture that came up on like Facebook memories or whatever, and it was my kids in a car with another family and a sister going to feed the homeless in the streets of San Diego. And my friend called me to invite me to do it, and I was like, I can't, I am so sick. I get very sick when I'm pregnant, and I was pregnant. She's like, let me take your kids, let me go. And so she was amazing and loved me and my family in that. And then I have a friend back in Steubenville, every time she called me to ask what mass we were going to, because she wanted to come, because she had twins and a baby and was pregnant. And so she needed help with the kids, and we take the kids, so she'd sit by herself. So sometimes someone, a Franciscan student one time said to me, they're like, do you sometimes leave your twin babies at home? I'm like, no, not my babies, but they always saw the babies with me and my kids. So we just helped her. So she got to pray, we got to love on these beautiful, precious little kids. So finding good community and helping each other out, I think is important.
We've got about 15 minutes left for questions. Maybe we'll make it 20. We've got 8 people on the line.
Can we do the lightning round?
So
maybe direct your question to one of us, and one of us will try to be brief.
Thanks, guys. Matt, I'm going to jump in. As Catholics, we're not immune to wider secular trends. The two big ones, drops in fertility, and then the political polarization of Gen Z men and women in different bubbles. Gen Z is hardly dating. My question is, what do you think needs to be done on a parish grassroots level to insulate Gen Z Catholics and offer them a good path out?
Oh gosh, that's such an excellent question, and I do not have a good answer. I think like increasingly in the States, what we're seeing is when good Catholic culture emerges within a town, the parish is really just required to distribute the sacraments. Like it's not required to host things, put together dances. They're almost like at St. Peter's in Steubenville where we lived, like you look in the bulletin, there's like nothing going on. And there doesn't need to be because we've figured out how to do it. So I don't know about on a parish level. Gosh, do you have an answer? I've got nothing.
Yeah, so one thing that we did before when we lived in another town, it was called Open Porch. And so basically once a month. Oh, about dating. Yeah, sorry. Okay, well, just making community. So like inviting people over. So maybe like what y'all did tonight. The singles were invited to socialize before, so I guess that helps with dating. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like it's lightning round and my jet lag's setting in, so I'm so sorry if I don't have a good answer. How about he answers it on an upcoming podcast?
Thank you so much for your answers. I was really enthralled. I kept forgetting my question in line. But Matt, Pints with Aquinas, I think differs quite substantially from like a regular 9 to 5 in that it requires a lot more effort and time in growing it. And how do you go about, I'm assuming that would like take away from your family, so how would you go about like balancing that and specifically prioritizing them over Pints with Aquinas?
Thank you, yeah. Here's why I don't think that's necessarily true, the bit about it requiring more of me than a 9-to-5 job. I think in the beginning I had a job, and so I was kind of building up Pints on the side, until we got to a point where I asked my wife, "You want to jump off this cliff? Let's see what happens." And she said, "Yeah." And so I quit my job, and at that point it was really scary. But I would say that I have a pretty chill life, actually. I don't work very hard at all. And the more money I'm able to bring in, the more I'm able to put the right people in the right seats to do the things that I can't do anyway, which is why I think my thumbnails look really good, which is why we have a manager at Pints with Aquinas who books the flights, who helps me find the guests and things like this. And so my days are actually pretty chill. Now, but they're not, so 4 wild kids and a wild, beautiful wife who wants to keep going to Australia and everywhere else.
You're welcome.
But here's something I think that I can say, and that is that I know how to make Pints blow up way quicker than it's currently blowing up, right? I could dedicate my time to doing like reactionary videos. I could do 3 interviews a week instead of 1. And that's actually kind of easy. I've got the system in place where that wouldn't even require a lot of me except to sit down and interview and do the reading beforehand or whatever. But I don't want to do it. I want to have a cigar for breakfast in the morning with my family. I want to read books to my kids at night. I like going on dates with my wife. I want to go on walks with her. That's what I really want to do. And so I think I could be running myself ragged, and I could boast about the results, because I know for a fact that more content, more results. It's just how YouTube works. But I don't want to have that life. Yeah.
Nor do I think you think you're called to that right now, right?
G'day guys. My quick question, well, firstly thank you for coming to Australia. My question is, so as somebody who attends a traditional Latin mass, a lot of the guys, a lot of the girls, they like guidelines and they like rules. Now, in a previous, I was dating a lovely girl from South Louisiana, and I think one of the problems that we had when we were kind of figuring things out was there was this tendency to kind of almost go biblical with the guidelines and the rules, and everything had to kind of, you weren't finding out about the other person, you were kind of ticking off a checklist. How does one, and this is probably a question for Matt, how does one communicate to the other person that, hey look, I don't think I'm able to be me, I think I'm just kind of trying to fit this checklist that you're trying to get me through?
This is such a mature thing to ask, and I would hope that when you date a woman that she's as mature as you, because I think it's just such a beautiful, honest thing. One of my favorite things about the podcast actually is grasping at ideas that I don't understand yet, but they are lying half awake in my brain, and I'm trying to wake them up the whole way, I guess that's what learning is to some degree. When you're talking about guidelines, are you referring to how the relationship should develop emotionally and physically, or are you referring to something else?
It's more like how long should somebody wait before they get, how long should one wait before they become committed? What's considered acceptable in terms of where you see, where you go out together, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess I would just try to have a real honest conversation. How cool would it be if you had a girlfriend where you got to be honest like that? You're like, can I be honest? I don't even really know how to do this. I feel kind of awkward. All I know is I like you, and I'd like to get to know you more. But that kind of honest conversation, I think I'd appreciate, Yeah, sometimes it's okay just to do it awkwardly too, it's okay to be awkward, I hope, because otherwise I'm screwed, So, just do it awkward. I think, I think your emphasis in the beginning should have fun with her. Be cool. Hopefully you find her cool.
Yeah, I think having that, saying, and not, there's not a checklist, because you are so uniquely different, and she's going to be so uniquely different. Our marriage is different because we're such different, unique people, and we're from different sides of the world, so there was things we had to learn where it's like, I don't even know what that word means, let alone what you mean by it. So yeah, I think having that honest communication and, but not being afraid to take the next step even though you don't think you're ready. So what do you often say? Get married before you're ready?
This is hyperbole, so don't get too offended. But I usually say get married before you're ready, have more kids than you can afford, and move into a bubble. And I mean all those things, but obviously they have to be nuanced. I'm not saying don't discern, I'm not saying be irresponsible or anything. Anyway, God bless you. I hope you find a beautiful wife.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but all the other ladies, I don't know if you noticed what he said. He doesn't currently have a girlfriend. You're welcome, single ladies. Invitation, that's fine.
Matt, I've always said something along the lines of if a young person doesn't have something along the lines of like vigor and a love for life, that's not a good sign. If you met a young man who was in that position, what advice would you...
Who doesn't have a what, sorry?
Who doesn't have like a vigor and a love for life. You said that's not a good sign.
Vigor.
So if you're saying if a man doesn't have like a desire for life, doesn't feel that enthusiasm that I was talking about?
Yes, you said that's not a good sign.
Well, see, here might be an example, right, where advice is unhelpful when it's too particularized, yeah? So like, there are people who are more analytical and there are people who are more passionate, and I think that's okay. I think it's not okay when you start to try to be like the kind of thing that you think you should be like. So to be fair, yeah, like I think I was probably like way more passionate than maybe like, I don't know you, but I don't even know if you're referring to yourself, but if you're kind of more like an intellectual, kind of analytical type, that's fine, just be that, I guess. I wouldn't be too worried about it. Now, if by lack of vigor in life, you mean like, I'm chronically depressed and don't see the point in marrying or something like that, and I don't think that is what you mean, but if someone were to mean that, then I'd say, yeah, like, you need to get on it, like, you need to work that out. You need to go to therapy, you need to pray, you need to do all sorts of other things, I suppose, to get right so that you can be the best you can be for a woman. But anyway, God bless you. Thanks for waiting so long for such a bad answer. I really appreciate it.
Hi, I have two questions. One for my husband, for you. How do you cook for a carnival lady?
Yes, well, I do. I'll answer that very quickly. So I cook, we have a grill, and I am usually the one to cook steak for us, and it's very easy, just good steak or eggs and burger patties, something like that.
That's what he's doing as well. My question is an unpleasant one, but I think necessary for a good wedding. How do you deal with everyday deception and trust, not trusting the other person when the person break your trust or infidelity and all those things?
Only by God's grace, right? I think that when we have been hurt significantly by our spouse, like going to God and saying, like, oh, here's my wound, like I am so hurt. Please give me the grace to see him the way you see him. Help me to love him the way you love him. And then try to put yourself in his shoes and see it from his point of view as well. And then only by grace, and that's the beautiful thing about marriage, you have the sacramental grace in choosing to forgive and go back. And I think sometimes it's easy to think, I have a list of things my husband can do to be a better husband. I don't have control over if he does that or not. I have control over me. What can I do to be a better wife? How can I love him better? How can I serve him better?
Julian of Norwich, or Norwich, I never know how to say it, said, God sees sin as pain in us. And I think when we hurt each other, or when we are talking to our spouse and you realize, oh, I'm bypassing rationality and I'm just hitting raw kind of reactionary emotion, that happens in marriage and it's painful, and it's usually because of some unhealed part of us, I think, that needs to be healed. I know that there's been times in our marriage where someone has given you the advice, like it's easy to look at me as an ogre who's intentionally trying to hurt you, but actually, like, he's hating himself right now and is acting out of that place. And I suppose when you forgive me, that does, like, if you betray my trust, or if I betray your trust, yes, to forgive, but no to necessarily trust right away, yeah? Like, you actually can't trust anyone else other than God fully. Like, if you do, sometimes that would be really silly to trust anyone at all times for everything. You know, I am a wretched man who's growing by the grace of God, and you are a wretched woman growing by the grace of God. And so we trust each other, but as wretches, right? Like, I trust you as a wretch, and you trust me as a wretch. And my ultimate trust is in the good Jesus. Anyway, thank you for listening to us. You guys are so lovely. I can't believe you're still here. I would have left hours ago.
We'll be at 5 people in 6 minutes.
All right,
let's see how we go.
All right, mate, ready? You got this?
So I also have 2 questions. The other one was my friend who had to soothe her baby, sorry. But number 1, how do you deal with the left, like the left activists who kind of try to argue with you? And number 2, how do you deal with homeschool and the stigma of the lack of socialization?
Okay, do you want me to do it? You want to do the next one or this one?
Sure, yeah.
I'll do this one. First, by arguing with them and by not backing down when people try to weaponize empathy to make you feel ashamed. There is a tactic on the left where people try to make you spend all of your time apologizing instead of like, no, I will not respect what you call yourself, because what you're calling yourself is irrational. Go away. That's okay sometimes, I think. And so I think Christians are in this odd position where if someone attacks you, you're kind of right, and this is what you naturally do and ought to do, to go, okay, how do I need to repent here? How do I need to work on this? Whereas sometimes I think I'm more kind of like masculine, sort of like, get behind. No, actually, is really called for. And living in, like, being here in Australia the last few weeks, I think a lot of Australians need to take that attitude. Second question, no, you can't.
No, I want to do the second one and then you can do the next one.
Okay.
Homeschool. So here's the thing. I think that my kids are more social than anyone else I know. If you are socially awkward and you're homeschooling your kids, they may be socially awkward. If you are not socially awkward, your kids will not. When you homeschool your kids have conversations with other kids, with older kids, with teenagers, and with adults. And they're extremely social.
100%, Brent. We do this. One question, go.
Alright, Matt, thanks for...
Sorry.
No, just
sorry to yell, go again.
Yeah. There's this quote, wives submit to your husbands, just like it's good for the Lord, and husbands love your wives just like Christ loved the church. Yes. Now, how does that look like in your marriage context? How do you live it, and what examples can you give us?
Great, awesome, thank you. So this very controversial text, because of where we've gotten ourselves in Ephesians 5, referring to wives submit to your husbands, husbands love your bride as Christ loves the church, is obviously true. And when you read the early fathers, when you read Thomas Aquinas, like, it's all there. And so the idea that, well, they didn't know what they were talking about, but now we live in a society where we don't know what men are, women are, sex is, or marriage is, we've got it figured out. It's like, probably not. Yeah, so how does it play out? I don't know, it's a complicated question. I feel like I'm the leader of our family. 2 heads makes a monster. And I think my wife wants me to lead her, actually, and wants me to be submissive to me. And I have 3 ways of showing that. And I think I have 3 ways of showing why women want that as well. And you can disagree with me if you want. 1, I think it's like ugly when a woman proposes marriage to her husband. I think the man is the giver of the gift. He desires to give of his strength, and the woman ought to receive it. And I think most women agree with that. They don't dream of proposing marriage to their future husband one day, and nor should they. Secondly, if I dream about my wife or if I miss her, I want to hold her. She, when she thinks of me, wants to be held by me. That is to say, I'm the giver of the embrace, she is the recipient. It would be kind of weird if I spent most of my days thinking I want my wife to hold me. Unless I'm dealing with some sort of trauma, in which case that's obviously acceptable. I'm not saying it's never okay. Don't try to binary what I'm saying. The third thing is the sexual act. The man is the giver of the gift. He literally has to rise to the occasion and give of his strength. The woman has to receive that gift. That receptivity is not passivity. It is an active receptivity through which she loves her husband. And think when you look at these three examples, we can see that they're somehow illustrative or prophetic of this role that St. Paul is talking about.
I agree.
3 people, 2 minutes.
My question was also about how to be the leader, but you've kind of already answered that, but how to, if he's wrong, what to do. And
When I'm wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, frequently.
Yeah.
Okay, are we talking like sinful wrong, or just we have a disagreement?
Like to allow him to be the leader, but then also when to correct, when to guide.
Okay, yes. Okay, great. Thank you. I get what you're saying. Yes. So I feel like there's certain things. So I think we mistake this quote often, and people are like, oh, that means you need to call your husband and ask if you're allowed to go to the grocery store. No, that would be foolish. Of course I'm allowed to go to the grocery store, and I'm going to get food, and I'm going to feed the family. But if he says, like, this is, like, I think that what's best for our family, I'll give you an example recently. When we got back to Steubenville, my husband put me on a plane, and I was very sick, and I was getting steroid shots just so I could breathe, and I was covered in hives, and he's like, you go figure out where we're moving in Florida, and he put me on a plane. I didn't want to leave. I was like, no, I'm fine, I'm gonna be great. He's like, no, go. And he was right to do that, because I'm very hard-headed, and I'm like, I'll be fine, but I needed to leave. And yeah, he was right, and I'm glad that I could follow him in that. And I think that there's certain things, like I say no to more speaking engagements than I say yes to, and I'm often checking with Matt, should I do this, should I not? And I let him say yes or no. It's like, well, actually our family's in a really great place right now. You have life from doing this, please go. Or no, you know what? This child's struggling with this. This one's struggling with that. Do you really think it's prudent for you not to be here for this? No, you're right, it's not. I need to stay here.
Yeah, and to say that my wife desires to like follow my lead is not to say that she's an infant. Like she's my closest confidant. She's never led me astray. I mean, she's the reason Pints is what it is. You know, I go to her all the time, like, what the heck do I do here? And she's so wise and beautiful, and I'm so grateful for her advice. You know, to kind of paraphrase Jordan Peterson here, you know, because you might think as a fella, like, what I really want is like a woman just to kind of walk in front of me and spread rose petals and tell me how great I am constantly. It's like, well, that might get old after, well, maybe it'll take a while, I don't know. But it's like, what do you want? You know, is that what you want? Or, and this is Peterson's point, it's like, or do you want to be married to a woman who doesn't just see you, but sees the you that you can be and calls it out of you, right? And I think like a man who's a coward probably can't handle that woman to challenge him and help lead him there, I think, you know, where it's like, I think any man who's always complaining about you questioning his authority, either it's because you are and shouldn't be, or it's because he's very insecure. And again, I think this does get back to the fact that we're in this really crazy time right now where we don't know what we're supposed to be doing. And we really need to give each other grace as we try to figure it out. But I think so long as I'm really trying to love her well, you know, like she's my favorite. Like if one of you heard her, like you're my enemy forever. Do you know what I mean? Like she is my best friend and I gotta defend her. You know, if we shut her brain off, let's say, and by the end of the day, she should be in a better place because I am with her, because I love her and I want her good. I think when a man is focused on wanting the good for his bride, and he's got good men who are helping him be the best husband he can be, and then when a woman like yourself that looks to other women like how do I love him well, and your focus is on how to love me well, then it's okay. I think it gets, well, that we'll leave it there.
Are you okay if we have 3 minutes more for the last two questions? If you said no, I was going to ignore you anyway.
Okay, so my question is, what advice do you have for singles that are looking for a soulmate?
You're beautiful, and thank you so much for waiting. I know it's been so long. God love you.
I think that coming to things like this is good. Other like-minded Catholics, the single thing over there earlier is great. Putting yourself like out there and making friends with people and then bringing it to the Lord. I know that it's really hard. I have friends that have spoken out about this before. I have a podcast episode called All You Single Ladies, and you can find it, I think it's only on like podcast app, it's not on YouTube. But I interview an older friend who is single, and she gives great advice. But I think, like that desire, giving it to the Lord, and be like, Lord, you provide that person for me, and let me go to things that are offered like this, where I can meet potential people, is huge. And the cross of it, like saying, Lord, I desire this, and this is not happening for me, but I love you, and I turn to you, and I offer this suffering up for love of you.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, like, some of you will just die alone, and that's it. And like, what are you going to do? Like, what are your options? Like, your option is what? Maybe to apostatize so you can fornicate with several people and like try to find like fulfillment that way. Yeah, like sometimes like we live in a rough world, and sometimes we don't get what we want. And I think what's important is that we realize that it's not like the good father is hiding your vocation under a rock and you've got to like figure out how to make this happen. I think instead, like you and I, look, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, and we can do nothing about the past. All we have is this precious moment where we can seek to be faithful to the good Jesus and entrust whatever. We'll be grateful for whatever happens and offer our cross up, like you said. God love you.
Hi, quick...
Love your skirt. You look so lovely.
Thank you very much. Quick practical question about scrupulosity in dating. And would there be any situation that you think would preclude someone from pursuing a relationship other than like pursuing a religious vocation or something that they should just, shouldn't pursue, particularly if they like someone, but they feel that they can't?
Because why? Give a theoretical.
Yeah, so they've got, say, like a spiritual director or something, or they've got, I don't know, they feel that they've got to overcome something before they can.
Yeah, bless you. I struggled with scrupulosity for a great deal of my Christian life, and Teresa of Lisieux and the 6th session of the Council of Trent beat it out of me. And I would highly encourage every one of you to buy the book, I Believe in Love, which is a book which is a retreat based on the teachings of Teresa of Lisieux. I would say that scrupulosity is not actually a cross the Lord is calling you to carry. It is the scourge of the demonic that we are called to renounce in the holy name of Jesus. Now, we should realize that there is a distinction to be made between a tender conscience, which we all should have, and scrupulosity. But if one is struggling with scrupulosity, where they believe that they're committing mortal sin when they're not, or venial sin when they're not even doing that, then I think healing needs to take place, obviously. And that book is the book I would tell you to check out, I Believe in Love. Do you have a final word for advice in dating relationships and scrupulosity? As a woman who's never struggled with scrupulosity. Cheer up, you're wretched and that's okay. Like, listen, you are a delight to Jesus. Isn't that wild? Like, I look at you and I'm like, whatever, you seem fine, but I don't know. Like, you're not worth the blood of the God-man. And yet he thinks you are, which is wild, actually. Like, that's what Christianity teaches. It's almost like it's not too hard to believe, but too good. Because every time we've tried to believe something this good and let us down, this is how good Jesus is. And when he placed a call on your life, and we'll end in this, he factored in your stupidity. So like, just breathe. Everything is fine. God bless you. Thank you for being so patient with us.
Thanks so much, Matt. Thanks, Cameron. That was amazing. I hope you've all enjoyed this event tonight. I've just got a few very quick announcements and then we'll send you on your way. The first one is this event tonight was put on by the Knights of the Southern Cross. It's part of our God and Beer series that we do. And the Knights of the Southern Cross is a group of Catholic men, which I think is a terrific group. I get a lot out of it, camaraderie with other men and getting to serve the church in lots of cool and interesting ways, doing things like tonight. And we're looking for a couple of men tonight who can help us to do a couple of jobs. Just outside in the St. Mary's Square, there's a bunch of tables. If there's some strong, powerful men who could bring those tables in, just as you're leaving, we'd be really grateful. There's also some bread in the corridor as you exit. If anyone wants to grab some of that free bread, please do. Next month we've got our Next Garden Beer event. It's back at our normal haunt in the Notting Hill Hotel out in the southeast suburbs. Just go to gardenbeer.com.au, find out the details. We've got Anna Crone talking about theology of the body at our next event on March 17th. On the next slide, you would have all seen the flyers on the floor there. There's a group of parents and teachers and other people that are really passionate about classical liberal arts education. We want to start a Catholic school in the northern suburbs. If anyone's interested in that, maybe you've seen the flyer, thought that sounds really interesting, come and talk to myself or Connor. Connor's giving a wave up on the balcony there. Come and talk to us afterwards. Matt and Cameron talked about kids need to read great books, they need to read fairy tales, they need to be inspired. That's what a classical education is all about. If you think that sounds great, please talk to us. And finally, next slide, we've got some thank yous. Thank you to the many, many people who helped to make tonight such a great event. You can see all these wonderful organisations there. I didn't want to forget any names, so I've written them up on the screen. Thank you so much to all those people, especially my lovely wife, Kate, who's very pregnant and still helped out a lot tonight, and my kids. And thank you especially to Charbel Raish, who brought Matt and Cameron out here. And thank you to Matt and Cameron, and thank you all for coming and being a wonderful audience. Here's Jeremy.
Thank you, everyone. Remember, this event happened at ACU. We can't be that bad. God bless you. Good night.